Morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Hot Topics. I'm sorry for being a little bit late, but as you can see, I'm not in the studio. I'm not at home. I'm actually away for Thanksgiving, and so I hope that you are enjoying your holiday week, your Thanksgiving week, and that you are giving thanks and you're taking care of yourself, and you're doing as we talked about in the show that is up now on our Live at 5 show, just about maybe taking a little break from the news, not from us, not from the Don Lemon show, because we give it to you where it's more palatable and we don't like shove it in your face, okay? So we're glad that you're here. We appreciate your comments. Make sure you comment, and thank you. Good morning. Where are you streaming from? Let me know. I am streaming from Paradise. Let's see. Should I tell you guys where I am? I'm somewhere in the Caribbean. Or Caribbean, as they say. Okay. So again, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Hot Topic show this morning. Here's the thing. I mean, I guess it is. I guess some people are just above the law. I guess some people are just above the law. And what I mean by that is I mean that Donald Trump is above the law because as it turns out, not all Americans are equal under the eyes of the law. Some people, or rather one person in particular, is above it. Now, I wonder what that means for Joe Biden. What could he do? What could he do in his last couple of months or weeks in office? Interesting. So here's what happened. Yesterday, the special counsel, Jack Smith, asked two courts to shut down the federal criminal case that he brought against President-elect Donald J. Trump, or former president, in his role, what he was doing as the previous president. Bowing to a Justice Department policy that says it is unconstitutional to pursue prosecution against sitting presidents. That request by Jack Smith, Mr. Smith, that was an acknowledgement, or the requests, plural, acknowledgement that Mr. Trump will re-enter the White House in January. He's going to be free from federal efforts to hold him accountable through charges of plotting to subvert the last presidential election, to overturn the election, and also holding on to a trove of highly classified material following his first term in office. Okay? So there's a lot to discuss here. Now, I can understand. I don't think all Republicans are really happy about this. I think the MAGA folks are, but I think the people who are on the side of the law and order, everyone is equal under the law, no one is above the law. I think there's some concerns about this. Even for folks who may want Donald Trump to be in office, I think that this may be something that they will regret. I really do. And I think it's something that, again, not everybody is happy with. At least they have mixed feelings about it. This is the announcement from Jack Smith on his motion to dismiss, where Jack Smith put up a motion to dismiss and saying here, we can put it up, that, wow, breaking. Well, that's what the tweet, I would imagine it's a tweet, or maybe it is a blue sky, whatever. Special counsel Jack Smith files a motion to dismiss the federal indictment against Donald Trump, citing DOJ policy banning prosecution of a sitting president. Smith reaffirms the strength of the case, but says the Constitution mandates dismissal before Trump's inauguration. So that is what Jack Smith is doing. I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel a certain kind of way. Here's the thing. Should Joe Biden now, should he be like, you know what, I'm going to pardon my son? You know, that's a whole nother show, right? Should Joe Biden now just go in and say, I'm going to pardon my son? We'll see. Anyway, you know, look, the pardon powers, that's nothing new. He can do what he wants as it relates to that as a sitting president. So I don't know. What do you think? Should he be doing it? We'll see. Okay, so let's talk about this. And I want to get you up to date on it before we have a discussion. Here's the report. It's from ABC News. We'll go through it. I may pause through some of it to discuss, but let's play it. Here it is.
George, Special Counsel Jack Smith is abandoning his prosecution of Donald Trump for his actions on and before January 6th to overturn the 2020 presidential election and for bringing classified documents home with him from the White House. Quote, the government's position on the merits of the defendant's prosecution has not changed, Smith told the judge yesterday, but the circumstances have. Smith acknowledged that long-standing Justice Department policy prohibits sitting presidents from being prosecuted. And so with Trump's re-election, the cases must be dropped.
Okay, pause.
Smith's investigation of Trump's lasted 2
Okay, so
years.
here's the thing. He's not president yet. And the whole thing that people are upset about is Merrick Garland. Did Merrick Garland take too long to prosecute? Because I don't believe, everyone is talking about, we'll get into this a little bit more about this whole lawfare thing that Democrats are using the law, to instead of the electoral system to try to silence and get rid of Donald Trump. But Donald Trump did a lot of things wrong. He actually did break the law. These are prosecutable things. Jack Smith is saying that his case, he believes in the strength of his case. It's just that this is what a longstanding law states, that you cannot prosecute a president. Do we need to change that? Do we need to change that? Because he is saying, let me see exactly what it says. It is unconstitutional to pursue prosecution against sitting presidents. Now, if he gets away with all of this, I mean, what about for the other folks who are, hey, look, I'm doing this, I got business, and I can't conduct the business of my company or conduct the business of this or that if I am prosecuted or whatever. Man, that would be great. Can you imagine if that was actually to set some sort of precedent where people can argue that? We should talk to a lawyer about that. I'm going to ask a lawyer about that. Because to me, I mean, they're saying it's unconstitutional. To me, it seems unconstitutional not to hold someone accountable, especially when you did something that folks were saying is sort of akin to treasonous, akin to it, like subverting the will of the people, subverting justice, overturning an election. But maybe this is not the end. Who knows? Maybe it is. It says dismiss all charges. I don't know if they can be rebrought. I have no idea if they can be brought again. If it's with prejudice or without prejudice. With prejudice means it's done. Without prejudice means that it can be brought again. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. Let's see. Roll the tape.
Smith's investigation of Trump's lasted 2 years, cost nearly $35 million. In that January 6th case, the indictments accused Trump of conspiring to defraud the United States and conspiracy against the right to vote and to have one's vote counted. In vivid detail in that case, Smith laid out the evidence of the violence that went down on January 6th and Trump's alleged indifference to the threats against Vice President Mike Pence. And in that classified documents case, Smith indicted Trump on 40 felony counts.
So they got to the Mike Pence part. He threatened Mike Pence. They were out on the mall saying that they wanted to hang him. He put his life in jeopardy. He said Mike Pence, he claimed that Mike Pence had the power to do something that the Constitution says that he cannot. So what is this whole Constitution? The Constitution says Mike Pence couldn't do what Donald Trump wanted him to do. And yet the Constitution says that he can't be prosecuted. We need to work on that, people. I don't think the Constitution, I don't think when they wrote the Constitution, at least as it relates to presidents and the whole prosecution thing, I don't think that it even entered their mind that they would ever have a person like Donald Trump become president of the United States. Someone who pushes the boundaries of the legal system, of institutions, tests the boundaries of our legal system, of our constitutional, and pushes them. I don't think that they ever thought that there would be someone like him in office, because the two things don't make sense. It's unconstitutional for them to prosecute, yet it's unconstitutional for Mike Pence to do what Donald Trump said. So basically, he's trying to overthrow the government. And that's not even the classified documents case that the ABC reporter is about to get into. That's two separate things. And let's remember, this isn't the only thing for Donald Trump. Remember, you have the Alvin Bragg of it, right? That he was found guilty of, and that he said that he would postpone the sentencing. Then you have the Leticia James part of it. And then you have the Fonnie Willis part of it. You got more than just one case here. Okay, now on to the separate thing. This is a classified documents that he refused to give back. Here it is.
some of the nation's most sensitive secrets and obstructing justice by refusing to comply with a subpoena to return them. And throughout his investigation, Smith declared that even a former president is not above the law. That was his mantra. But these unprecedented prosecutions of a former president, they raised novel legal questions that courts all the way up to the Supreme Court had to rule on. And Trump's lawyers successfully delayed the proceedings, running out the clock until the election. Smith made it clear in his papers that he still believes in his case. He said this decision, quote, does not turn on the gravity of the crimes charged, the strength of the government's proof, or the merits of the prosecution, which the government stands fully behind.
Right, and he actually has kept the investigations going, indictments going of the people who worked with former President Trump allegedly on the classified documents case. Meantime, the Trump team has an internal investigation against one of its own, please. One of his top lawyers.
The folks who were involved, who are not president of the United States, they're still in trouble. That's the whole problem when you say above the law. They are still in trouble and they're still going to face prosecution. They're still going to face a long arm of the law, yet and still Donald Trump is going to become president of the United States. Think about the Billy Bush of it all, right? Donald Trump says, you know, I can grab him by the pee, I can do whatever I want to. You just got to, you know, I'm going to take the Tic Tac. You just got to kiss him. Billy Bush just was like, you know, he was with an interview subject, probably did not want to embarrass the interview subject or make it uncomfortable, kind of went along with it. Okay. I honestly don't think Billy Bush should have been fired. I think NBC could have talked to him and figured it out, and they could have stood by him and say, look, he was an interview subject that he was interviewing, blah, 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 I'm sorry. And then Donald Trump becomes president and Billy Bush gets fired. And where is Billy Bush now? I think Billy Bush is doing some entertainment show. But still, look at what happened to Billy Bush. I don't think that that's fair. I do not. And I don't think that this is fair. Look, I think if Donald Trump is innocent of something, then good. Proven innocent in a court of law, then that's fine. I have no problem with it. But for Jack Smith to say we believe in the strength of our case, they 100% believe that Donald Trump would be prosecuted and that he would face justice. But we just can't do it because of this one thing that says this. I don't think that's fair. If I had to face something like that, I wouldn't think it was fair. I just don't think that. I think it's problematic. And I think that the people who were involved or whatever, some of the folks who worked for him or whatever, they are still might be in trouble. But then also plot twist that I'll get to a little bit later. I think that they're going to want to prosecute the people. They're going to want to prosecute the prosecutors, and they may actually get away with prosecuting the prosecutors. And then there is this internal thing that George Stephanopoulos is talking about. So Trump is ordering review of a legal advisor, Boris Epstein, accused of seeking money from cabinet positions. Here we go. Check it out.
The Trump team has an internal investigation against one of its own, one of his top lawyers, Boris Epstein.
Yeah, this is surprising, George. Sources say that President-elect Trump has launched his own internal investigation into one of his legal advisors, Boris Epstein, after Epstein allegedly asked for money to secure cabinet positions. Sources also say the investigation found, quote, concerning behavior. Epstein denies these allegations, George.
Okay, Terry, thanks very much.
So there was Terry Moran and George Stephanopoulos. Here's the interesting thing. Boris Epstein is a longtime Trump supporter, really just a kind of a flunky kind of guy, right? He was a contributor for a while, a political contributor, etc., and then became a media person under Trump for conservative stations that were owned around the country from a Trump ally who is a big media magnate who has all of these local stations around the country that are conservative leaning. And then those are the stations where you see all of the folks, I forgot the name of the group, but all of the folks who had this, they were saying all the same message about democracy and what we care about the news and blah, 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 blah. It seems like they were all, you know, reading from the same script. Well, he was also had a role in that where he did a political report around the country of everybody kind of saying the same thing. This is all very interesting. All very interesting. and I think concerning. But what the hell, Merrick Garland? Seriously, now I'm not saying don't get me wrong, I do not want Donald Trump to be prosecuted just to be prosecuted. But Merrick Garland, what took you so long considering all the evidence there was for this and how much it took years for you to prosecute? And it was obvious that January 6th, it was obvious what that was. What took you so long? And that is what Dean Obeidallah is arguing with Dan Abrams over at News Nation, that really Merrick Garland is feckless. He is ineffectual, and he took way too long. Had he got this prosecution started, I don't believe that we would be here. Dan and Dean.
Difference between running and teasing the possibility that you're going to run? I mean, you want to talk about letting politics dictate it. You're basically saying that it's the DOJ's role to stop Donald Trump, right? If he's going to run again in 2024, we need to stop him.
Dan, if a Democratic president did what Donald Trump did, I would have called for that Democratic president to be charged with crimes for attempting a coup and inciting a terrorist attack on our Capitol. I say with all sincerity. You might not believe that, but I say that with all sincerity.
Amen.
So,
Pause that, please. And that's a difference between
president.
Republicans. That's the difference between Democrats and, I can say Republicans, I believe, but especially Democrats and MAGA, is that Democrats they will, because look at what they did with Al Franken. Now, you guys know how I feel when I call it the Al Franken of it all. I believe that they screwed up and that Al Franken should not have been removed from the Senate. They are impeached. I don't believe so. I think Democrats, and I had a tough time, I got to be honest with you, voting for one of the people who were out front in pushing Al Franken out. I thought it was the silliest move. They lost a very strong and smart and strategic Democratic senator. That's the difference between Democrats and Republicans. Wait till you see how Republicans are fighting back. When I talk about prosecuting the prosecutors, that is what I believe is up their sleeve. And so Dean Obeidallah is saying, it doesn't matter. I'm looking at this from a moral point of view. Now, Dean is a liberal, but this is something just morally. Morally, if a Democratic president had done something, this was outrageous what Donald Trump is accused of doing and is really guilty of doing. And yet he will not face prosecution. Continue, please.
I don't believe that, but I say that with all sincerity. And so to me, we have never seen an American president lose and try to remain in power by having a whole scheme behind the scenes that exploded on January 6th. And Trump called his supporters there by a tweet on December 19th saying, come to D.C., it's going to be wild. And in that tweet, he claimed the election was stolen. We saw this all play out.
Dan's going to do the language thing, watch.
To protect our democratic republic.
He said peaceful. I know that's what he's doing.
But there was I sincerely don't care.
But there was enough ambiguity. I mean, for example, when he used the word peacefully, which he
did
use in his speech.
One time.
Okay.
I love you, Dan. You know that.
Regardless, it was included in the speech, and this notion that, we should just ignore that. We should go after him. Is there no deference that you give to a former president? And you said, it sounds like your answer is no, because it sounds like what you're saying is Democrat, Republican, you would come out the same way on this. But it does seem to me that when you're talking about a new administration prosecuting the previous administration, taking time and being careful and not announcing from day one you're appointing a special counsel to investigate the former president is kind of the right way to go.
Pause. Not day one. This is not day one. No one is saying on day one that Merrick Garland should have gone in as soon as he was appointed as the Attorney General, that he should have gone in and said, we're going to prosecute Donald Trump. He should have done it quicker. He could have gotten it together quicker because, again, the evidence was all there. Even with a classified documents case, all of that information was in place. He dragged his feet. There's no doubt about it. And I think he was concerned about the possibility of it looking a certain way. So he took his time and he waited, which was wrong. That was the wrong thing to do. If anybody knows through litigation and prosecutions how long that takes to go through the court, it should be the person who is holding the highest office in the land as it relates to the justice system. Merrick Garland should have known better. Continue with Dean, please.
And the opposite, the flip side, Dan, is that the rest of us, Democrats and people like Liz Cheney, are saying Donald Trump is a great threat to our republic. He attempted a coup. And what is Merrick Garland doing? Nothing. So every day the clock went by, it undermined us. It helped normalize Donald Trump. This is not normal politics. The man attempted to stay in power despite losing, and he knew he lost, and he's tried to stay in power. Any president ever tries to do that. If you believe in this republic, if you love this republic, I do, you do, charge that person to protect this republic.
Again,
that's what this is about, protecting us.
Let me,
Dean, thank you. Dean is, that's patriotic. That is a patriot. Just as everyone was saying, now, don't think that I'm contradicting myself. I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth. But just as everyone was saying, if Hunter Biden did something wrong, that he should face the fullest extent of the law, that he should face the whatever's coming to him. Every single Democrat, including his own father, the president of the United States, said the same thing. But I'm also saying now, considering what is happening with Donald Trump and who's going to be in office and what they might try to do, put their finger on a scale when it comes to the justice system, I think he should. Had this not happened, I don't think that he should have. But because this justice system is so shaky right now and so weird and not fair, I think he should pardon him. And I think he should say, look, you want to use the justice system? You want to use the DOJ in a certain way? Trump folks, I'm pardoning my son. That's what I think he should do. And I think that what Dean is saying, that is actually being a patriot. Keep going. Let's listen.
Held up the January 6th committee folks as sort of heroes. They balked at turning over the testimony to the FBI. You blame them?
Well, you know, DOJ has this thing called a grand jury, and they have their own subpoenas. They can do whatever they want. So that wasn't a problem to me. It was this not having a special counsel right away. Think about how it would have been announced. If Merrick Garland comes in day one or day two, says, I'm appointing a special counsel to investigate Donald Trump and anybody else involved in the planning of this. That would have sent a message nationwide that we don't tolerate coups. And that's the way it should be.
That's the way it should be. Thank you very much. I know Dan keeps trying. Dan always wants to be like, hey, look, I'm the middle guy, whatever. I know Dan, I love him. So I would tell him this. You guys, if you ever seen Dan and I on together, either on television or if you ever heard us on the radio, same thing. We'll go back and forth. Like we have that kind of a relationship. So Dan is like, you know, he wants to be like, hey, you know, and he likes to play the contrarian. So I really don't believe that there's much argument about whether Donald Trump was innocent or guilty, or did he just get lucky as it relates to the law and prosecuting a sitting president, and also the Supreme Court and the whole immunity thing, right? The prosecution, Jack Smith, Merrick Garland, they're all up against that. So, you know, it's over for now. I don't know if they'll bring it back. I don't know exactly if they can bring it back afterwards. They said dropped, so maybe it's over. Here's the thing, though. As I said, there's more than one. There's not just one. You've got Alvin Bragg, you've got Merrick Garland, you've got Jack Smith, and you've got Leticia James, and you've got Fani Willis. It's hard, I believe, for anyone to keep track of it. Wait, what is this one? Which one is this? Which one is this? Which one is this? But it's very interesting to me when they get the two Black women confused. It's not that hard. As Laura Ingram did on Fox News, Leticia James and Fani Willis, confusing.
So history is going to remember Jack Smith and Alvin Bragg, Fani Willis, and the judges who let these cases get as far as they did.
Okay. Only problem is that last person was not Fani Willis. And it's not that hard. They don't even look alike. Laura Ingram, I think, is in New York. She may be in D.C. I'm not sure. But if we know what Leticia James looks like, and we know what Fani Willis, and we know how much they've demonized both of those women, and they're basically on their air every single night. I don't think that Laura Ingram, I know that she didn't actually put the picture up there. So here's what happens, right? I know this because I've been through it before. A producer or a production assistant or someone puts the wrong picture in the system. They send it to the graphics department. They put the wrong picture up. The graphics department doesn't know, I guess, maybe if it's who's who. They just said, give me a picture of blah, 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 blah. So it wasn't Laura Ingram. But Laura Ingram, because she is the anchor in the face of the show, she's got to take the hit and do the apology, which is what she did. But let's see how that apology was.
In the angle, we accidentally showed a graphic that had a photo of another vicious anti-Trump figure, Leticia James, when we were talking about Fonnie Willis. So that was our mistake. But they both hate Trump. All right, coming.
Yeah, but they both look alike. Oh my gosh. And then she goes on to disparage both of them. And so they're very familiar at Fox News with both of these women. So was it a case of they all look alike or we all look alike? Maybe they were just like, oh, look, she's the black woman that's doing the prosecuting. So it's got to be her. However, I will say the AP did screw up the other day, and they mixed up Scott Bessent, who is a sort of white, dude, waspy looking white dude, with Scott Turner, I believe his name is, or Scott Miller, who's going to be Health and Human Services Secretary. I think it's Scott Miller. So they did mix them up. One is a black ex-football player. The other one is a waspy looking white dude. Okay. So that did happen. But it's interesting that she would say, instead of just saying, this is what most people do, Laura Ingram, people who actually have some scruples and some integrity, they will say, hey, we inadvertently ran the wrong picture. We were talking about such and such. We apologize for the error. Boom. They're both Trump haters. Blah, 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 blah. They just can't help themselves. She can't help herself. She's just filled with hate and vitriol. She just can't stand it. She just can't stand it. So that's the Laura Ingram of it all. Just one thing that I want to say I find interesting is now they're doing, again, more postmortem. And David Plouffe, who helped to run the Harris campaign and is a huge help to run the Obama campaign as well, a huge Democratic strategist, is talking about what the Democrats need to do now. And that's not necessarily reach out to the extremes, which everybody had been telling them before. And I believe not to be so afraid, not to be so scared, to lean into who they are. He says they need to reach more of sort of the average middle class, middle American. Here's David Plouffe. Let's listen.
Always worth reminding people, it's really hard for Democrats to win battleground states. Let's look at Pennsylvania. 25% of the electorate is liberal, roughly. 34% is conservative. By the way, in most battleground states, that conservative number is over 40. So in every battleground state, there's more conservative than liberals. So in Pennsylvania, if experts are to believe, Trump won conservatives 91-8, Harris won liberals 93-6. Moderates, Harris won 56-43, but you kind of got to win 60% of them, right? For Democrats to win battleground states, it is a false choice. You want to maximize your base, of course. And that was a place where we spent enormous time, a lot of resources. That's critical. And obviously, I think in Milwaukee, just to use that as an example, we hit our turnout targets, fell a little bit short in Philly and Detroit. So that's not good. That's part of the equation. You've got to couple that with dominating in the middle, not just winning it a little. We have to dominate the moderate vote. And I think as we look ahead to 26 and 28, particularly where you have seen drift amongst non-college voters generally, particularly those of color specifically, we obviously have to get some of that back. We can't afford any more erosion there. The math just doesn't fucking work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's the thing that I have to say about that. Just so you know, African Americans are not as liberal as you think they are. They are fairly conservative for the most part, especially when it comes to sort of religious issues. Social issues they're a little bit more conservative on. And they're not as liberal as people would think. We found out, figured the Latino vote, that's a whole nother show about, I don't know if you've heard the thing about Latinos and assimilation and white Latinos versus black Latinos and all of these. So there's a whole huge thing that has to do with that. That's a whole nother show, as they say. But however, I don't believe that trying to become a conservative party, trying to become the Republican Party or a Republican light, that is not going to work for Democrats. Democrats need to stick by their principles of being Democrats and being the party of liberals, but more moderate folks, I do agree with that. That is a delicate balance. But also, they also need more progressive folks as well. And I don't mean the sort of extreme left. I'm talking about they need progressives. They need to pull their progressives in. They need to speak to them. They also need to pull in the more moderate folks and start speaking to the American people and stop over-indexing on pronouns and bathrooms and all of those things. Not that those issues are not important, but messaging-wise, they need to stick to what is good for the American people. And perhaps there would have been a different outcome. And perhaps there will be a different outcome in 26 and 28. So if you are a Republican and you are more moderate and you're not a MAGA person, right? And if you are a Democrat and you're more modern and you're not, far left with the squad and whatever, then there's hope for you. And because that is the majority middle that I believe that will save this country come 26 and 28. Now, as you guys know, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I am an independent. But obviously, I do not believe in MAGAism. I think it is a detriment to society and to our democracy. I believe in integrity. I believe in the separation of church and state. And I believe that the rules should be the same for all. No one should be above the law. And that is my message to you today. No one should be above the law. Elections have consequences, and this is what people voted for. Now, I believe that right now, this will work for Donald Trump and the MAGA folks, but once they're out of office, wait until someone they don't like is in office and they start using the same rules that the Republicans, that they acted upon, that they capitalized on to keep Donald Trump from facing prosecution, from facing justice. Okay? So there you go, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope that you're having a fantastic week. I will see you back here tomorrow, or if not this evening. We shall see. But I hope you're enjoying. And again, try not to over-index on news and alerts or whatever. Just us. Just watch us. Or listen to us if you're on one of the streaming things. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you hit the like. And on all the platforms, follow us. Our subscribers are increasing. We want it to continue. So if you are not subscribed, and I can tell when you're subscribed or not, because when I try to reply to some people in the comments and your name, your handle does not populate automatically, that makes me realize I know that you're not a subscriber. And so I'm going to stop responding. If you're not a subscriber, we're not going to let you in the comments. So you must subscribe. And we want you to, as a gift for us for this Thanksgiving season, give thanks and give out. Send the link to the Don Lemon Show. We'll put it in the chat. Send the link to the Don Lemon Show on YouTube. And make sure you tune into the Don Lemon Show, subscribe, like, and check out our social media, especially check out, we're growing like crazy over on Blue Sky. Okay? We're on all the social platforms. We're so glad that you're here. And so I shall see you later. Have a fantastic day or evening, depending on what time you watch this. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure you hit the like button. It helps us with the algorithm. And also, we'd love for you to become a subscriber. So hit that button too. We're live every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time and 5 p.m. Eastern. So there's plenty of content for you to check out.